The architecture of fear. We often look back on our childhoods with rose-tinted glasses, remembering the freedom and the play. But we forget the fear. When I was a young boy, fear had a very specific face. It wasn't a monster under the bed or a creature in the closet. It was our math teacher. In our school, mathematics wasn't just a subject, it was a survival horror game. Our teacher believed that the only way to get numbers into a child's head was through sheer terror. The classroom would be deathly silent. You could hear the buzzing of a fly, the shuffling of feet, and the collective heartbeat of 30 terrified boys. If you didn't solve a problem correctly, or if you simply looked at him the wrong way, you were in trouble. In this atmosphere of dread, I had a friend named Munir. Munir was different. In every classroom, there is always that one kid who seems to be operating on a different frequency than everyone else. Munir sat in the back row, gazing out the window at the drifting clouds, completely detached from the equations on the chalkboard. While the rest of us were sweating over arithmetic, Munir seemed to be contemplating the mysteries of the universe. When the teacher screamed, Munir wouldn't flinch. He would just blink, his eyes wide and vacant, as if he didn't understand the concept of anger. One particularly grueling afternoon, the teacher was on a rampage. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. He had assigned us a complex problem involving water flowing through pipes, a classic, impossible word problem. One by one, students were failing to solve it. My palms were sweating. I knew my turn was coming. I looked over at Munir. He was staring at his blank notebook, calm as a monk. I leaned in and whispered, asking if he was scared. He looked at me with a faint smile and whispered back something that froze me in my tracks. He said, "I'm not scared. Tonight, I am going to catch a ghost." The House of Shadows. The logic of a child is a fascinating thing. Moments ago, I was terrified of long division. Now, that fear had completely evaporated, replaced by an electric curiosity. A ghost? Munir claimed he knew where to get one. He said there was a man, a sorcerer of sorts, who captured spirits and sealed them in glass jars. It sounded ridiculous. It sounded impossible. It sounded exactly like the kind of adventure I needed to escape the reality of school. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in bruised purples and oranges, we set out. We walked to the edge of our town, to a place where the paved roads turned into dirt paths and the streetlights didn't reach. There, hidden behind a thicket of overgrown trees and tangled vines, stood a house. It was ancient. The walls were covered in moss, weeping with dampness. The iron gate was rusted shut, groaning in protest as we pushed it open. It was the quintessential haunted house, the kind you see in movies, but this was real, and the air around it felt heavy. We crept inside. The house was filled with books. Piles and piles of dusty, leather-bound books stacked from the floor to the ceiling. In the center of this literary chaotic maze sat an old man. He was a striking figure. He had a long, flowing white beard and wild, untamed hair. He looked exactly like an old philosopher or an ancient wizard from a fantasy novel. He was reading by the dim light of a kerosene lamp. He didn't look up when we entered. He just sat there, mumbling poetry to himself. Munir, surprisingly brave, stepped forward. "We are here for the ghost," he said. The old man looked up. His eyes were intense, burning with a strange, frantic energy. He didn't laugh. He didn't tell us to go away. Instead, he nodded gravely. He stood up, rummaged through a drawer, and pulled out a small, amber-colored glass vial, the kind used for homeopathic medicine. It was corked tightly. He held it up to the light. "Be careful," the old man whispered. "Inside this bottle is a powerful spirit. I caught him just this morning. He is fierce. If you ever open the cork, He will escape, and I cannot be responsible for what happens." We stared at the empty bottle. To an adult, it was just trash. To us, in that flickering lamplight, it was Pandora's box. We took the bottle with trembling hands. The old man refused our money. He simply told us to go, to run, and to never let the bottle break. We ran all the way home, clutching that piece of glass against our chests, believing with every fiber of our beings that we were now the masters of the supernatural. The placebo miracle. The next morning, the world looked different. The colors were brighter. The air was crisper. I had a ghost in my pocket. I walked into the classroom with a swagger I had never possessed before. The math teacher entered, his face set in its usual scowl, carrying a bundle of canes. The class held its breath. But I smiled. I patted my pocket. "Do something," I thought, directing my thoughts to the bottle. "Save us." And then, it happened. The teacher opened his mouth to shout at us, but instead of a scream, a loud, comical hiccup escaped his throat. He looked shocked. He tried to speak again, "Hic." The class gasped. He tried to drink water. "Hic." His face turned red. The hiccups were violent, shaking his entire body. He couldn't teach. He couldn't yell. He couldn't even stand straight. After 5 minutes of this, he waved his hand dismissively and walked out of the room. Class was dismissed. We erupted into cheers. I looked at Munir. Munir looked at the bottle in my pocket. It was undeniable. The ghost had attacked the teacher. We had a weapon. We were invincible. This is where the psychology of belief becomes truly powerful. In science, we call it the placebo effect, where the belief in a cure actually causes a physical improvement. But for us, it was the magic effect. Because we believed we were protected, our anxiety vanished. And because our anxiety vanished, we performed better. We stopped stuttering when answering questions. We stopped shaking when adults spoke to us. The bottle wasn't doing anything, but we were changing. The skeptic and the scale. Of course, not everyone buys into magic so easily. My older sister, Oru, was the voice of reason, or as I saw it, the destroyer of fun. She was sharp, logical, and cynical. When we showed her the bottle and explained its power, she scoffed. "It's empty," she said, holding it up to the window. "It's just air." "You can't see him," I argued passionately. "He's a spirit. He's made of smoke and shadows." Oru decided to conduct an experiment. She was studying science in college, and she believed in empirical evidence. She took the bottle to her university laboratory to weigh it. Her hypothesis was simple: if there's a ghost inside, the bottle should weigh more than an empty one, or the weight should fluctuate as the ghost moves. We waited anxiously for her results. A few days later, she came back, looking confused. She told us that the weight of the bottle was inconsistent. One day it was 17.3 grams. The next day it was 17.1 grams. Then it went up again. Science tells us that scales can be sensitive to dust, temperature, or air pressure. But to our confirmation-biased brains, this was proof. The ghost was losing weight. The ghost was growing. Even Oru, the skeptic, couldn't fully explain it away. She started looking at the bottle with a little less suspicion and a little more wonder. The contagion of belief was spreading. The bottle sat on my desk like a totem, a silent guardian watching over our house. The underdogs. The true test of our spectral friend came in the form of the neighborhood soccer tournament. In every childhood story, there is a rival gang. Ours was the Bullet Club. They were older, bigger, and meaner. Their captain was a boy who had failed the 8th grade 3 times. He had a mustache while we still had baby faces. He was terrifying. We were the Royal Bengal Club, a majestic name for a group of scrawny kids who tripped over their own shoelaces. We accepted a challenge to play a match against them. It was a suicide mission. We had no skills, no stamina, and no hope. But we had the bottle. Before the match, I gathered the team in a huddle. I didn't talk about strategy or formations. I pulled out the homeopathic vial. "We have a ghost on our side," I whispered. "He will trip them. He will guide the ball. We just have to run." The game began. It was a hot, dusty afternoon. The field was uneven, more dirt than grass. The Bullet Club came at us like a steamroller. But then, the strangest thing happened. Their star player, the mustache man, broke away for an easy goal. He had an open shot. But as he pulled his leg back to kick, his other foot slipped on a patch of loose gravel. He went down hard, face first into the dirt. The ball rolled harmlessly to our goalkeeper. "The ghost!" Munir shouted. The ghost pushed him. A surge of adrenaline hit us. It was real. We were being aided by supernatural forces. Suddenly, we weren't scrawny kids anymore. We played with the ferocity of Spartans. Our goalkeeper, a boy who usually closed his eyes when the ball came near him, made a diving save that defied physics. I managed to dribble past 2 defenders, something I had never done in my life. We were playing out of our skins, fueled entirely by the certainty that we could not lose. In the final minutes, the score was tied. The ball landed at my feet. I didn't think, I just kicked. It wasn't a perfect shot. It wobbled in the air. The opposing goalie jumped to catch it, but the sun got in his eyes. He blinked, the ball slipped through his fingers, and rolled into the net. The whistle blew. We had won. The Royal Bengal Club had defeated the Giants. We were hoisted onto shoulders. We screamed until our throats were raw. In the chaos of celebration, I clutched my pocket, whispering a thank you to the invisible entity that had led us to glory. The crash. For months, the bottle was the center of our universe. But as all childhood seasons do, this one had to turn. We felt a debt of gratitude to the old man who had given us this power. We decided we needed to go back to the haunted house, to thank him properly, maybe bring him some sweets or a gift. We wanted to tell him how his ghost had saved us from math exams and won us the championship. We returned to the house Shantiniketan. It looked less scary in the daylight. The gate didn't creak as loudly. We walked into the book-filled room, expecting to see the wild-haired wizard. Instead, we found a man who looked remarkably normal. He was clean-shaven. His hair was cut short and neat. He was wearing clean, ironed clothes. He looked like a regular grandfather, not a sorcerer. He looked at us with kind, confused eyes. "Who are you boys?" he asked. "We came to thank you," I said, confused. "For the bottle. For the ghost." The man frowned. He looked at the bottle in my hand and then a look of deep embarrassment and sadness crossed his face. He sat down slowly. "Boys," he said softly, "I need to apologize to you." He explained that he had been sick. He had suffered from a severe mental breakdown. During that time, he lived in a fantasy world. He believed he was a great poet, a magician, a hunter of spirits. He told us that his family had finally gotten him medical treatment. He was better now. The ghosts, the magic, the wild stories, they were all delusions of a sick mind. "The bottle," he said, pointing to the vial, "is just an empty medicine bottle I found in the trash. There is nothing inside. I am so sorry I lied to you." The empty glass. The walk home that day was the longest of my life. The world suddenly felt gray. The colors were dull. The bottle in my pocket felt heavy, not with magic, but with the weight of our stupidity. We felt foolish. We had been tricked by a crazy old man. There was no ghost. The math teacher just happened to have hiccups. The scale at the lab was just faulty. The soccer match, well, the other team just had a bad day. It was all a lie. I took the bottle out of my pocket. I wanted to throw it into the river. I wanted to smash it against a wall. It was just a piece of trash. I felt betrayed by the universe. We were just ordinary kids again, defenseless against the harsh world. The real magic. Years went by. I grew up. The bottle was lost somewhere in the clutter of moving houses and changing lives. But as I look back on that story now, as an adult, I realize that I was wrong to be angry. The old man hadn't lied to us, not in the way that matters. That bottle was magic. Think about it. That empty piece of glass gave a shy boy the courage to speak up. It gave a terrified student the calm composure to face an abusive teacher. It gave a team of weaklings the confidence to defeat giants. The ghost wasn't in the bottle. The ghost was inside us. It was our own potential, our own bravery, which we were too afraid to access on our own. We needed an excuse to be brave. We needed permission to be great. The bottle gave us that permission. This is a lesson that stays with me. How many of us are walking around right now, waiting for a sign? Waiting for a lucky break? Waiting for a magic bottle to solve our problems? We think we aren't smart enough, or strong enough, or talented enough. We wait for external validation. But the truth is, the magic is already there. The placebo effect proves that the mind can heal the body if it simply believes it is being healed. In the same way, confidence can change your reality if you simply believe you are capable. I often wonder what would have happened if we never met that old man. We probably would have failed math. We certainly would have lost the soccer game. We would have spent our childhoods with our heads down, afraid of our own shadows. That crazy old man, in his delusion, gave us the greatest gift a child can receive. He made us believe that we were special. So, the next time you feel like you can't do something, the next time you feel small or afraid, just imagine you have a little amber bottle in your pocket. Imagine there is a powerful force on your side. And then, take the shot. Raise your hand. Step onto the field. You might be surprised to find that the ghost you were looking for was you all along.